lay this upon him and say goodbye.
I think I'll say something else. I will avenge you.
Death, taxes, and Dutton drama, these three things have remained the only constants in the Yellowstone universe for over 6 years. And even in the series finale titled Life is a Promise, they reigned supreme, leaving the fans collecting their jaws from the floor. But how did Taylor Sheridan resolve all conflicts? Did the finale live up to the hype? And most importantly, what happened to the legendary Dutton Ranch? Buckle up, because this video will break down the explosive ending and explore what it means for the family and their legacy. So, what's the ranch's future? The last few moments of the episode showed the Dutton Ranch one last time, with Elsa Dutton's voice coming back to narrate the scene. The scene shows children knocking over a bunch of gravestones at the back of the ranch. Mo, witnessing this, scolds them for doing so, saying that the buried people had fought for and protected the land. He then goes ahead and fixes the tombstones. The first one is revealed to be Elsa Dutton's tombstone, whose voice is heard saying that her father promised to return the land, and despite no written agreement, the promise is ultimately kept. This powerful moment connects the generations of Duttons in a heartfelt manner. Let's take a trip down memory lane to understand this scene's importance. Elsa Dutton became the first Dutton to die in Montana in 1883. Her family initially traveled along the Oregon Trail and planned to settle in Oregon. However, Elsa ended up getting shot at with a dirty arrow. Her father, James Dutton, was sure that she would die of infection and didn't want to leave his daughter behind. He told his wife that he wanted to settle where she would die so they could visit her. She passed away in Montana, where they ended up building the ranch. However, in the series finale, Kayce and Beth are shown selling the ranch to Thomas Rainwater and the reservation for $1.1 million because they couldn't afford the inheritance tax they needed. Kayce chose this price because he thought selling it for $1.25 per acre was fair, which was the price when James Dutton first settled on the land in 1883. Now, a lot of fans had an issue with this because according to estimates, the ranch was worth over $1 billion, but that's a discussion for another time. Let's talk about why it was important that Rainwater and the Native Americans get the land. The answer to this is pretty simple. The whole foundation of the show was built on this. When Elsa was sick and dying back in 1883, a kind and well-meaning Native American man told James Dutton about a good piece of land. But he also mentioned that in about 7 generations' time, his people would want the land back, and when they did, he would have to return it. James obliged with the promise because neither of them would be around at the time. But with the Native Americans still getting the land back, it was the perfect full circle moment to finish the show. As Elsa Dutton herself said, it was a promise that wasn't written down, but one which lived on in spirit. But what about Kayce? Kayce and his family were looked after even after the ranch was sold. Part of the deal was that a piece of the land would be carved out for Kayce and his family to live on, which couldn't be touched. The deal also stated that the Yellowstone Ranch itself wouldn't be sold. In the end, it was declared a wilderness site, which meant that no vehicle would be able to drive on it, and no commercial properties would be built on it. So, at the end of the day, the land remained as open and free as it was when first acquired by the Duttons. There's another powerful scene towards the end of the episode where Beth Dutton says to her father's coffin that while there wouldn't be cows on the land, she and Kayce had ensured there wouldn't be condos. This shows that while the original plan was to keep the ranch with the Duttons, the current outcome was far better than it falling into Jamie's hands. Speaking of, what about Jamie? He ended up meeting his end at the hands of his sister, Beth. The character wasn't featured much in the last episode because he did not attend his father's funeral. Instead, he got busy with his speech, where he was going to try to show the people of Montana how he was good for the state. And of course, he wanted to remain ahead on the whole Sarah fiasco. When Jamie finally delivered his speech, he really leaned in on the fact that the people spreading rumors about him were taking a dig at the people's decision to select who they wanted in power, and that it was a knock at their right to freedom. On his car ride back, he hears radio presenters say that the people of Montana were pleased with Jamie, saying that at a time without a leader, one needed to rise to the occasion, and the people felt like Jamie was that very person. While this might have been good news for Jamie, things didn't remain that way for long. When he got home, Beth was waiting for him. She ended up beating him to a pulp, and Jamie was happy to return the favor. When Beth revealed that the ranch was sold, Jamie realized that his plan had essentially failed. The money and success he was hoping to have were gone, and everything that happened was essentially for nothing. The death of his father, the ruining of the relationship with his family, and the death of Sarah, too. So, with nothing to lose, he went to kill Beth, but was disrupted when Rip walked in and stopped him. After this, Beth stabs him with a knife. Now, if you remember in episode 10, Beth confronted Jamie and told him that she was going to be the last thing he'd see. Well, that became true. In the end, Rip and Beth end up fleeing. Later, Jamie's car is found burnt with its plates missing. They're clearly trying to make it seem like he ran away because he was worried about getting caught due to his involvement in his father's death and his sister's assault. The end of the episode shows people trying to impeach Jamie at the end of the episode, so that smile after his speech was truly short-lived. This season had all of us on our toes, wondering who was going to make it out alive, Jamie or Beth. Well, with Jamie wrapped up in a rugged and disposed off, I'd say they concluded that pretty neatly. Now, we can't just simply gloss over Beth. This episode was essentially divided into two halves for Beth. First, we see her in a deep state of mourning after she finds the body of her father, John Dutton, ready to be buried, and the funeral is set to take place. The viewers see her gravely upset and in a sad, somber state. The second half begins when she attends the funeral and whispers her final words to her father, promising to avenge him. From the moment she walks away from the ceremony, all Beth sees is Jamie's blood. Now, saying that Beth took a real beating in this episode would be an understatement. She was genuinely within an inch of her life. In fact, when Rip pries Jamie off of her, he's seen wringing her neck, and Beth is on the verge of dying. But fans finally get that moment of sweet revenge when Beth completes her promise to her father and ends Jamie. But why was it important to kill off Jamie? If being involved in John Dutton's death is not a good enough reason already, then I suggest you rewatch the part where he's about to choke Beth. In his short monologue where he's threatening his sister, he ends up giving quite a huge list of reasons why he should be killed. Number 1, he wouldn't hesitate to spill information about all the crimes the Duttons committed over the years. Number 2, he was going to come after the rest of them for selling the ranch. And number 3, let's not forget that he was involved in John's death. With Jamie out of the picture, Rip and Beth finally get a happy ending. The last scene of the episode shows them living on a small ranch about 40 miles west of Dillon. The ranch might not be big, but there was enough to keep Rip busy and make a living. Carter is also shown to be with them. This implies that Carter is like the child the couple could never have. And while that's good for Beth and Rip, it's also really great for Crater, who found comfort and care with the couple. The place was perfect for the family, as the area wasn't full of tourists, and a small bar was nearby. Guess you could say that it had the old ways of a cowboy, something we know that Rip had always wanted. So, what does the future hold for the Duttons? It seems like Beth and Rip have settled into their quiet happily ever after at the small ranch. But what about Kayce? Did he get a happy ending? Yes, because he was finally free. He'd felt the weight of the ranch for a long time and the badge he was wearing. But with this ending, he became the cowboy he wanted to be. And Tate followed in his family's footsteps. Kayce initiated the deal with Thomas Rainwater, and once he was ensured that he could live on the East Camp and the sale wouldn't impact his family's life, he was happy to sell it. Initially, I thought Kayce might have something to do with Jamie's death, especially considering there was much investigating on his side at the start of the season. But he wasn't involved in the slightest. In fact, he didn't even find out about Jamie's death in the episode. Kayce's ending came with his family at East Camp with around 300 cattle, and he had the two most important people in his life alongside him. And with that, it's a wrap on this video. See you in the next one.